Hey, it's Tim from AK the Sports Cards. All right, well, we kind of closed out the week with some really nice weather. I actually did a pretty long walk yesterday and filmed the video and was going through the editing process and saw that I had some, or heard that I had some audio issues. So filming, or refilming, I should say, take two, in studio this morning on a Saturday morning. It was a gorgeous evening last night. It was in the low 60s. They didn't start that well. It was like 44 degrees when I got up to go to work, and it's been pretty cold at night. I think I have my furnace set to 64 degrees, and it's turning on basically every night already. And given the fact that we're just beyond mid-August, I'm not really sure that I'm quite ready for these types of cold temperatures just yet. So the main topic of today's video is hobby volatility. We saw that this week in the news there was a big breaking story on Wander Franco, who's currently on the restricted list, so he can't play baseball. Allegations are really serious, and so that kind of came up this week. And the first thing that I saw was that there were some people that had some really high end Wander Franco cards that were, trying to sell those, and they were already pretty heavily discounted. There's a lot of speculation out there about what's happening and what's going to happen. I'm not one to speculate on that because I have I have no idea. But I do see that there's a lot of people that are looking to unload those higher end cards. And the other thing that I noticed was when something like this happens, whether it's allegations like with Wander, or you know if somebody retires, or there's some sort of an accident, or basically if something bad happens, there's always groups of people that kind of take joy in other people losing the value of their cards. And I've never really understood that. And I mentioned retired, so Andrew Luck is the first person that comes to mind. I think he retired in 2019, and so he has been retired now for 4 years. And leading up to his retirement, he had a series of injuries, but it was still pretty shocking when he walked away from the game. And there was people that had speculated at the time that they thought that even though he's saying he's retired, that he may come back. And here we are, 4 years later, he never did. Um, the parallel that I'm trying to make there is I remember back in 2019, there were groups of people back then that just took joy in other people losing the value within their collection. And I didn't really understand it then, and I don't really understand it now. I just don't understand getting joy in people losing value of their collections. On this channel that, I don't see cards as investments, but I don't root for or take joy in people losing the value of their collections. It seems pointless to me. But a lot of people do. Generally speaking, when it comes to baseball, I've mentioned on my channel before that I don't do any high end prospecting. I'll buy some like lower end prospect cards, rookie cards, and things like that, and maybe look to grade some. I've done that in the past with Soto, but generally speaking, I really don't. But at the same time, I don't take any joy in people losing value in their collections because inevitably, there's Rays fans out there and there's PC collectors of Wander that just wanted these cards for their collection, and they wanted some higher end cards as part of their collection as well. So um, you just don't know when these situations are going to happen. And uh, episode 18 that I did, it was a while back, but it was kind of a lead balloon. Um, weren't a lot of views. People That tells me that people really weren't interested in the topic. But it was about like budgeting and sports cards. And if you never watched that, but you have any sort of interest in it, I give my disclaimer on that, that, hey, I'm not a financial advisor and stuff, but I give my, I kind of give my story and my strategy as far as, budgeting and, paying off debts and stuff like that to then be able to buy more sports cards. I can tell you this: if you don't have a bunch of debts, collecting sports cards is so much more fun. Like, it is a blast. And I'll tell you this too. So on I had mentioned before that I'm a regular listener of the Ramsey Show, from Ramsey Solutions, and they have a concept that I'll take to apply to cards. So they talk about, like, how do you decide if you have too much money into something, into a hobby or into a fancy car or whatever the case may be. If you're trying to make a decision on purchasing something or the overall value of something, um, if let's say that you have $20,000 invested, or you want to invest into your PC player. If you had $20,000 in cash on your outdoor table and you were to throw it in your fire bowl and light it on fire, would that affect your life? I mean, would that cause financial strain where, bills couldn't be paid, or, you had to sacrifice something else? Or would it be a situation where if you torched that $20,000, it would have no impact on your life? I've always liked this concept because to me, it really just made a lot of sense. So that's why I usually say, like, if you're going to put money into sports cards, it's got to be money that you're potentially able to lose. There's a lot of volatility. And there's a lot of cards that drop significantly in value, even if the player does nothing wrong or doesn't, is even performing well. Example. So I talked about Victor Wembanyama's Bowman First Chrome card. When it first came out, I talked about it in one of my episodes when I was traveling in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. When Wembanyama Bowman First cards came out, they were selling between $500 and $600. Now they are an SP or SSP. I'm not quite sure which, but they're tough to get. I've seen examples where people have cracked blasters, like 20 blasters, like a case or so, and got one. So they're very tough to pull. Well, even those cards now have dropped to the $250 to $350 range raw. So you can get them somewhere in that range. I think I saw a 9 in there at about 400, give or take. So they've essentially dropped, in some cases, in half or slightly more. But he hasn't even played his first NBA game. So a lot of that has to do with hype, the fear of missing out when something first comes out. So I always kind of look at cards like, just kind of slow it down a little bit. It's really tempting when the new thing comes out to say, hey, I want this right now. And in some cases, when things are super rare, you may not see those cards again. But as far as that particular card, yeah, sure, it's an SP or SSP, whatever. But there's plenty of them out there. And I still kind of want that card, but I'm kind of more in the $100 range. So if and when that card gets there, I might go ahead and pull the trigger to buy one of those. Until then, I'm really not in a rush. We'll just kind of see where those prices go. It's already cut in half, so maybe it'll keep dropping a little bit further. Along those lines, too, when you're talking about, like, financial pressures and things like that, um, I still occasionally see posts and threads about, hey, I've got a car repair, so I got to sell some cards, or I've got a home repair, I got to sell some cards, or I'm going on vacations, or I'm going on vacation and I need some money for a flight, whatever the case may be, where people run into relatively small monetary situations and find that they have to sell their cards to pay for those things. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I giving financial advice. But I'm going to tell you this, that's not how I want to live. That's not how I want to collect, because that seems like a very, very stressful way to live as a collector. So, my opinion on that. Um, did want to mention, too, that I have not received my big Otani card just yet. So previously, I had talked about how I had purchased a big Otani. So I want to talk about that negotiation process a little bit. So the card is posted, and I won't give details until it comes in. I want there to be a little bit of suspense, right? But it is a pretty rare rookie card of Otani. Um, there's not a lot of them listed at any given time. And one got posted that I was interested in. but the pictures weren't very good. So I kind of got excited because it was listed right off the bat cheaper than others that were available. And so right away, looking at the pictures, I'm like, well, I really can't tell. Is this an issue on the card? Is this an issue on the card? So I put in an offer that I was comfortable paying regardless. And then I emailed the seller and I'm just like, hey, I'll honor this offer. Like, I'm good with buying the card at this price. But if you could send me more pictures, I'm willing to negotiate and we could talk more about price. Basically implying that, hey, I'll pay more for this card if I get better pictures and some of the issues that I see in the pictures aren't actual issues, is what it boils down to. So the seller was really nice. The seller's just like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's and actually agreed, like, oh yeah, these pictures weren't great. But what was really nice about it and really cordial about it. And so they're just like, hey, I'll have an opportunity to, send you pictures in the next day or so. And I said, fine. And so my offer was getting closer to expiring. So they countered just to kind of keep that going. And they sent me the pictures. And I actually ended up paying the price at which they countered at. I was comfortable paying it. It was less than to buy it now. I didn't get a huge discount, but it was less and it was fair. And the card was rare. So that's kind of my rule. If it's rare and fair, go ahead and buy it. It's the most I've ever spent for an individual card. I'll go over those details when it comes in. It's at a price level where it has to be sent to the authenticator. And so it's been shipped, but I know it has to go to the authenticator first and then to me. So I don't know how long it's going to take. It was shipped a few days ago. So we'll see. I anticipate that I should get it within the next week, but I don't know. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. So I'll follow up on that as well. And I wanted to mention that too. So I mentioned that I don't really prospect, in baseball, but and I know that I just bought a high end Otani. I don't. I see him as being something completely different than prospecting. Otani's 29 years old. He's had over a decade of pro experience already when you combine Japan and the U.S. Um, I think that if Otani decided to retire tomorrow, and no, I haven't heard any rumors about that or anything, but if he decided to hypothetically retire tomorrow, I think the guy is still a legend. He's done things already, in Major League Baseball that I've never seen in my lifetime in terms of being such an effective pitcher and to be such a great hitter too, with over 40 home runs, etc. He's on pace to win the MVP this year. He's just an amazing player, and so win, lose or draw. As far as the future of his career, I'm happy to acquire that card. Again, in my opinion, the guy's a legend. This is not some sort of pump and dump of that particular card. I've kind of thought bounced this back and forth about potentially selling off a couple of my lower Otani rookies, just because given that he is on his MVP run here, his stuff is selling pretty good, and then I can offset part of the cost. I don't have to do that or anything like that, but it's just something I've kind of kicked around because it kind of goes along with the theme of my collection, where I'm kind of downsizing a little bit but moving up at the same time. So kind of thinking about that as well. So I've noticed one final piece. I've noticed that there's continuous dips in the sale prices of a lot of basketball cards of some big time players, and so I'm kind of monitoring that at all as well. I may make another bigger play towards a basketball rookie or two. I am going to focus more upon numbered pieces. So if you're looking at some of the superstars, I'm going to look at numbered. I'm going to look at some of the more established stars. I'm just not huge on a lot of the modern stuff. Again, if Wembanyama Bowman first goes to $100, I'll talk about that. Um, but I'm not in the market to buy Zion's. I know he's down quite a bit, but I'm not in the market for those. I've already got a couple high end, low numbered Trey Youngs that were really cheap. I guess I'm always looking to add to my Luca collection, but at this point, I'm only looking for stuff that's a lot more rare. I do have a couple of cards also that are in the grading process of PSA. Those are on in prior videos. I've got that titanium Luca numbered 18 rookie, and then I've got a gold Luca numbered to 10 from Crown Royal that's in grading as well at PSA. So I'm curious to see how long this is going to take. I dropped them off at the National, so they're already in grading at PSA. So we'll see how long that takes. So I'll follow up on that as well as those move through the process. I hope that everybody had a great week. If you like this type of content and you haven't already, please consider subscribing and tell some friends. I have a new goal. I'm on a push for 250 subscribers. I'm almost halfway there. Thank you to all of you again for watching, and remember that the opportunities for collecting sports cards are endless.